My name is Susan D. Blackburn. The original story never gave an age, so I will only say this. I was old enough to know better, and lonely enough to confuse responsibility with love. When Callum and I had been dating for 8 months, he hit a severe financial wall. He lived in a gorgeous, overpriced 2-bedroom apartment downtown, all exposed brick and oversized windows, and his freelance graphic design business was falling apart. The stress was eating him alive. So I made what felt like the logical, loving choice. I gave up my cheaper place, moved into his, and quietly took over the heavy lifting. His name was on the lease, but my paycheck kept the lights on. I paid the $2,400 rent. I paid the internet so he could work. I paid the electric, the water, and usually the groceries. My thinking was simple. I made good money as a project manager, and if I could take pressure off him while he rebuilt his career and mental health, then that was what a good partner did. I did not announce it. I did not keep score. I just carried more. But gratitude has a short shelf life when comfort arrives too easily. Once the threat of eviction disappeared, Callum did not use his peace to rebuild. He used it to get bored. Our life settled into a toxic routine so gradually, I almost missed the shape of it. I worked 50 hours a week, came home, cooked dinner, and handled chores because he was always creatively drained. Instead of appreciating the stability I provided, he began resenting me for it. My reliability became predictable. My steadiness became suffocating. My competence became proof, somehow, that I had no spark. That was when Brianna moved in. Not physically, worse, as a ghost. Brianna was Callum's ex-girlfriend, a woman he had dated for 2 years before me. From what he told me early on, she had been a wildly impulsive bartender who thought financial planning meant buying scratch-off tickets. Their relationship had been volatile, toxic, full of screaming matches, jealousy, disappearing acts, and eventual betrayal. But in Callum's comfortable, rent-free reality, Brianna slowly transformed into a symbol of lost passion. He started weaponizing her memory in small, surgical ways. If I suggested we stay in on a Friday night because I was exhausted from work, he would roll his eyes and sigh like I had asked him to move into a retirement home. Brianna used to just grab my hand and drag me to midnight concerts, he would say. She actually knew how to live. If I spent Saturday morning under the bathroom sink, fixing a leak instead of entertaining him, he would lean in the doorway with the expensive coffee I bought and say, "You're so domestic, Susan. Brianna could not fix a sink to save her life, but at least she had a pulse." Everything with me, he said, was safe. I never took the bait. I thought refusing to engage proved I was mature. I would wipe my hands, put the tools away, and move on with the day. I did not realize I was giving him permission to sharpen the knife. It happened on a Tuesday evening, the kind of bone-deep tired where all you want is a hot shower and silence. I had just walked in after 10 brutal hours of back-to-back meetings. My head was pounding. The kitchen sink was piled high with plates, mugs, and a pan crusted with sauce from whatever late lunch Callum had made for himself. He was on the living room sofa, legs draped over the armrest, scrolling through his phone. "Hey," I said, loosening my blazer. "You forgot the almond milk," he said without looking up. "I texted you." I checked my phone. The message had arrived 20 minutes earlier while I was stuck in traffic. "Sorry, I did not see it. I can grab some tomorrow." I rolled up my sleeves, turned on the tap, and started washing dishes. "Tomorrow does not help me tomorrow morning, does it?" he snapped. "It is almond milk, Callum. I said I would get it before work." "It is not about the milk." His voice rose as he came into the kitchen. "It is that you never pay attention. You are on autopilot. Wake up, work, cook, wash dishes, sleep. You are like a machine." "I am working extra hours so we can afford this place," I said quietly. "I am trying to keep everything running." My calm made him angrier. "Right, the great provider. You think paying bills makes you some hero? You have zero passion, zero personality. I kept scrubbing the mug in my hand. The sponge squeaked against ceramic. He stepped closer, needing me to break. Then he delivered it. Brianna was better in every way, he said, voice low and vicious. I settled for you, and I regret it every day. The words hung in the kitchen. I felt my heartbeat slow. I rinsed the mug, placed it on the drying rack, turned off the faucet, dried my hands finger by finger, folded the towel, and set it flat on the counter. Then I walked past him without a word, turned off the kitchen light, and went to bed. He thought my silence meant he had won. He had no idea I was already gone. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, waiting for heartbreak to arrive the way people say it does. I expected the sting, the rage, the unbearable need to wake him up and demand he explain how a person could accept your money, your labor, your patience, your whole life rearranged around their comfort, and still look you in the face like you were the disappointment. But nothing came, only a vast, cold emptiness where my attachment to him had been. Callum came to bed an hour later. He did not apologize. He did not reach for me. He only fluffed his pillows with aggressive little movements and turned his back, radiating smug satisfaction. He thought my silence meant I had absorbed the blow. He thought tomorrow I would probably apologize, buy the almond milk, make coffee, and smooth the tension, because that was what I had trained him to expect. Within 20 minutes, his breathing had settled into sleep. I slipped out from under the covers. I did not turn on a single light. I did not need to. I pulled my duffel bag and a medium suitcase from the back of the closet and began packing with the soundless precision of someone leaving a crime scene before sunrise. I took only what was mine: my suits, my casual clothes, my laptop, my documents, my toiletries. I left the expensive espresso machine I had bought him. I left the television. I left the designer lamps. Those things were artifacts from a dead civilization. I did not want souvenirs. When my bags were zipped, I sat in the living room armchair with only the glow of my phone lighting the room. I opened my banking app first, then the building management portal. Payment options, link checking account, remove. The autopay for the $2,400 rent vanished. Next came the internet provider. Cancel service effective immediately, then utilities. I could not close them because the lease was in Callum's name, but I deleted my credit card from every recurring billing profile. A few taps. That was all it took to sever the financial life support. He was officially living on his own dime again. It was 3:14 a.m. when I carried my bags to the front door. Before leaving, I walked into the kitchen one last time. Moonlight spilled over the countertops and caught the edge of the drying rack. The mug I had washed so carefully sat exactly where I had left it. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the heavy brass key to the apartment, and set it on the wooden table. The soft clink sounded final. I walked out, pulled the door shut behind me, heard the deadbolt click, and stepped into the freezing morning air. The weight that had been sitting on my chest for the past year lifted so quickly I almost stumbled. I took a deep breath, ordered a ride to a hotel, and disappeared. By sunrise, I was sitting in a booth at a corner diner 3 miles away. The waitress poured me black coffee into a chipped ceramic mug. The place smelled like bacon grease and bleached floors. It was ugly and bright and honest, and after a year in that lavender-scented apartment full of tension, it felt like mercy. I took one sip. It was bitter and burnt and the best thing I had tasted in months. At exactly 8:15 a.m., my phone buzzed. Callum. I watched it ring until voicemail took it. 2 minutes later, it rang again, then again. I did not silence it. I just ate my eggs and watched realization arrive one vibration at a time. By the time I checked into the hotel room, there were 47 missed calls. I sat on the edge of the bed and played the voicemails in order. The first one, 8:20 a.m., was pure annoyance. Where are you? Are you seriously throwing a tantrum over a fight? You did not even make coffee. Grow up, Susan, and bring almond milk when you come back. He still thought he held power. Voicemail 15, 9:45 a.m., had changed. Susan, your closet is empty. Your bags are gone. What is this? If this is some kind of lesson, point taken. Stop playing games and call me. Voicemail 28, 11:30 a.m. was panic. Did you cancel the Wi-Fi? I cannot get into my client portal. And the rent autopay is gone. The card is removed. Susan, rent is due in 4 days. You cannot just leave me with this. Answer the phone. Then the last one. Voicemail 47, 3:15 p.m. He was crying. Not the pretty, controlled kind people use to pull you back in. Ugly, ragged, breathless crying. Please, Susan. Please pick up. I did not mean it. I swear I did not mean what I said about Brianna. I was just mad. I was trying to get a reaction. I cannot afford this place. I have $200 in checking. Please tell me you are coming back. Please. The recording ended. I felt no pity. He was not sorry he broke my heart. He was sorry the safety net had finally snapped. He did not miss me. He missed the rent money, the Wi-Fi, the groceries, the clean dishes, the woman who absorbed his chaos and called it love. I deleted every voicemail, blocked his number, opened my laptop, and started searching for apartments closer to my office. The extraction was complete. 6 months is a lifetime when you are moving forward. It is also a blink when someone else is falling backward. I spent those 6 months building a life that did not require me to brace before opening my own front door. I landed a promotion to senior project manager. I moved into a quiet, one-bedroom loft 12 minutes from my office, with tall windows, clean floors, and exactly the amount of furniture I wanted. No lavender candles trying to cover resentment. No dishes left like tests. No one sighing because stability did not entertain him enough. My routine became almost boring, and I loved it. Work, gym, dinner, sleep. Weekends with friends I had neglected because I had been too busy funding a man's collapse while calling it support. My life was predictable, yes, but it was rich in the way peace is rich when you have lived too long in emotional debt. I was not lonely. I was relieved. There is a difference people only understand after they leave the wrong room. Then the email arrived. It slipped past my blocked contacts because Callum had created a brand new sterile email address just to send it. The subject line read, "Please just read this." I did not owe him my time. I knew that. But I opened it while drinking my morning coffee, more out of curiosity than hope. It was a massive, frantic wall of text. It did not begin with an apology. Of course it did not. It began with a confession of consequences. Without my income, he could not cover even a fraction of the rent. The late fees stacked quickly. The building management company gave warnings, then notices, then the final paper taped to the door. When eviction became real, Callum did exactly what he had been threatening emotionally for months. He called Brianna. He found the spark. The email described his personal hell in detail, though he did not call it that. Brianna, the woman who knew how to live, did not have an apartment of her own. She was bouncing between friends' couches and bartending whenever she felt like showing up. But she convinced him that they could start over together if he stopped clinging to comfort and embraced something real. He sold the television, then the designer lamps, then the espresso machine I had bought him. He moved with her into an extended stay motel while they figured things out. Within 2 months, Brianna had drained the last few $100s he made selling the apartment things. Then, true to the passionate chaos he used to worship from across my kitchen, she vanished. She emptied his wallet while he slept and left with a 21-year-old bartender whose name he apparently learned from someone else. Callum was left with maxed-out credit cards, an unpaid motel bill, no apartment, no reliable clients, and no fantasy left to hide inside. Near the end of the email, his words started losing shape. "You were right about everything," he wrote. "She ruined me. I am sleeping in my sister's unfinished basement. I alienated everyone because I would not stop crying about what a mistake I made. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, Susan. I threw away real love for a fantasy. Please, I just want to hear your voice." I read that line twice, not because it moved me, because once it would have. Once I would have heard, "I just want to hear your voice," and mistaken it for love. I would have pictured him alone, humiliated, cold in some basement, and my body would have rushed before my mind could stop it. I would have called. I would have softened. I would have told myself kindness required access. But 6 months of silence had taught me something. Some people do not miss your heart. They miss the version of themselves your patience allowed them to be. Callum did not want me back because he finally understood love. He wanted shelter. He wanted the life he had mocked once the alternative stopped looking romantic. I finished my coffee. I did not feel victorious. I did not feel the thrilling satisfaction people imagine when karma circles back with its hands full. I felt a small passing pity. The kind you feel when you see someone drop something fragile on a sidewalk and know they were the one who refused to hold it carefully. Then I clicked the trash icon, permanently deleted. I changed into gym clothes and left the apartment. The air outside was cold enough to wake the skin. I walked the 12 minutes to the gym with my headphones in, passing cafes, delivery trucks, people holding paper cups, and rushing into lives I knew nothing about. At a crosswalk, my phone buzzed once with another email notification. I did not check it. For the first time in years, I trusted myself to keep walking. It happened 2 months after the email. I was stepping out of a high-end cafe, half a block from my firm, iced coffee in one hand, briefcase in the other, already mentally preparing for a 2 o'clock strategy meeting. The sun was sharp off the glass buildings, the sidewalk crowded with people who all seemed to know exactly where they were going. Then I heard my name. "Susan." I stopped and turned. Callum was standing near the patio railing. For a second, my mind had to connect the man in front of me with the man who used to lounge on my couch critiquing my life while I paid for his. The transformation was jarring. The glossy, arrogant ease was gone. His hair was unwashed and tied back badly. He wore a faded, oversized sweater that hung off him like he had borrowed it from someone who did not want it back. Dark circles sat under his eyes. His cheekbones looked sharper. Not handsome in a wounded way, just worn down. He stepped into my path, hands trembling around the strap of a cheap bag. "I knew your office was around here," he said. "I have been sitting on this bench during lunch for a week, hoping I would see you." I looked at him with a face so neutral it seemed to frighten him more than anger would have. "Hello, Callum." His eyes filled immediately. The calm in my voice cracked whatever speech he had rehearsed. "You look amazing," he whispered, scanning my tailored suit, my clean hair, the watch on my wrist, the posture of a woman no longer bending around his moods. "I sent you an email. I do not know if you read it." "I read it." His breath caught. "Then you know. Brianna destroyed my life. She took everything from me. I see now that what we had, what you gave me, that was real love. I was too blind and immature to understand it." He took half a step closer. I did not move back, but I did not soften either. "I miss our life," he said. "I miss how safe I felt with you. I would do anything to go back to that kitchen and take back what I said. Please, can we just sit down?" 10 minutes. That is all I am asking. There was a time when the sight of him like that would have undone me. I would have heard the tremble in his voice and rushed to repair what his own choices had broken. I would have confused pity with love, guilt with responsibility, history with obligation. But standing there on that bright sidewalk, I felt none of it. He was expecting anger, I could see it. He wanted me to lash out, to call him pathetic, to punish him with all the words I had swallowed. If I yelled, it would mean there was still a thread between us. Anger would have been proof that some part of me was still available. I did not yell. I did not even frown. I looked at him the way you look at someone handing you a flyer you have no intention of taking. There is nothing to talk about, Callum. His face collapsed. I made a mistake. You made many. I chose the wrong person, he said, voice cracking. She was terrible to me. I checked my watch, not to be cruel, but because I really did have a meeting. That small gesture hit him harder than any insult could have. Once, I had rearranged entire evenings around his feelings. Now, I was measuring him against a calendar alert. He whispered, "Do you really feel nothing?" I met his eyes one last time. I feel free. He blinked, and fresh tears spilled down his face. You wanted a different life, I said quietly, and you got it. I hope you find a way to survive it, but it will not be through me. Susan, please. I stepped around him. He reached out like he might touch my arm, then stopped himself when he saw my face. Good. Some lessons arrive late, but they arrive. As I passed, I said the only thing left to say. Good luck with the lease. Then I merged into the flow of midday foot traffic. I did not look back. I did not need to see him frozen and weeping on the sidewalk. I did not need the image to feel complete. The story had ended months earlier, in a kitchen lit by moonlight, when I placed my key on the table and walked out. By the time I reached the office, my coffee was still cold. My hands were steady. I walked into the strategy meeting at 2, gave my presentation, and negotiated a project timeline without once thinking about whether Callum was still outside. That evening, I had a date at 7. A quiet restaurant, good lighting, someone who asked about my work and actually listened to the answer. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that needed to become a lesson. Just a life. Completely, entirely mine.